First, it was Last Christmas. Now, yet another movie about a family that likes to scream, fight, yell, and murder? Sorry guys, I'm starting to sense a bit of a theme. But in any event, this week we are going to be talking about the new murder mystery, Knives Out. So I have been super stoked for Knives Out. I am a big fan of the murder mystery genre, all the way back to seeing Clue when I was a kid. Now, Clue obviously is a murder mystery based upon a game, which is based upon a story, I think. But just the same, I don't think we get enough of these kinds of movies these days, and I was super excited to go out and support it. I wish I could have gotten out weekend one. Unfortunately, it was like, oh, it's Monday, we're about to do the podcast, and we didn't go see Knives Out. And that is probably bad, since we did want to support it right out of the gate. We did go see it this weekend, and truthfully, I may go see it again. You would think, hey, murder mystery? Maybe not the kind of movie you're going to see twice. Maybe this one is. But before we get into all of that, let's get through the pleasantries right at the top. Knives Out was, of course, written by Rian Johnson. It was also directed by Rian Johnson. This is his passion piece, I think, where it's something that he really wanted to make that is different than all of the other movies he's kind of been tasked with making. And maybe he's been making those other movies so that he could make this one. And oh boy, if you're going to choose one to make, this would be the one. The movie has a star-studded cast, starting with, at the top, Daniel Craig, James Bond himself as Benoit Blanc, Michael Shannon as Walt, Don Johnson as Richard Drysdale, Toni Collette as Joni Thromby, Christopher Plummer as the patriarch of the family, Harlan Thromby, Ana de Armas as friend of the family / nurse / confidant for Harlan, Marta, Chris Evans in a super dramatic / comedic role, very different than what we've seen him in recent years, as Ransom Drysdale, and someone who I'm seeing a lot of, and I am super excited about it, Lakeith Stanfield. They are supported by a fantastic cast all around. A couple of other family members, a couple of other staff. The only one I'm really going to bring out individually and point out is Edie Patterson as Fran, and I'm only going to do that because this is the second week in a row that I'm going to be able to talk about a Righteous Gemstones alum being in something else. Edie is the daughter in Righteous Gemstones, and now we see her again. And just last week, we saw the son from Righteous Gemstones in a previous movie. I am loving the way that these it's not TV, it's HBO, right? But HBO stars are getting out into big films. Knives Out. Well, one thing, they actually say the name of the movie in the movie. And I don't know if, I think I have talked about that before, where it's one of those things that I think is a little cheesy, but I can also appreciate it in a different way. It's a moment where when you can always tell the audience that you're with, and when it happens at home back in Maryland, it always gets like a big pop. Not so much here in LA, and definitely not in the Prime Theater where we saw it at AMC Burbank, where, you know, it's a little bit of an upper level theater experience, and it's a different kind of crowd there. And I don't know if anybody even heard it. I don't know if they paid attention to it. I certainly did. I mean, we went to a late show, so there's also like a bit of a malaise across the audience. 10 o'clock on a Saturday night, maybe not the best time to kind of catch that little thing, but it was very interesting. And I really want to find the poem that they pulled that quote from, because I think it would be super interesting. But I didn't catch enough of it, and I'm just going to have to do a Google search, I bet. But you've already seen the setup for the movie, basically. Again, it is a murder mystery. Harlan Thromby is the patriarch of the family, and all of his kids are basic, rich, parasitic trust fund kids, where they're all kind of leeching off their father and benefiting from him. And some of them don't think that they are, but in the end, everyone has an opinion about everyone else and how they are. And that goes for not only the kids, but the grandkids as well. And there's just like this interwoven family conflict that I imagine is true to life in a lot of families, especially families with money, currently and in the past. But Fran, Edie Patterson, finds Harlan Thromby dead with his throat cut, and thus the entire investigation begins. That's literally not how the movie opens, but very close to it. And we experience everything as the detectives who are investigating it. We're seeing it through the eyes of Benoit Blanc, Daniel Craig, who is we don't learn until later in the movie, but he is a keen investigator, world famous. Daniel Craig, famous Englishman, putting on a Kentucky accent, which got some not so fair reviews from the people I saw the movie with, but then again, they don't review anything very well. If you like those pretentious movie reviews, Go check those out. I loved it. I am more forgiving about it being like, well, it wasn't strictly a Kentucky no, but it was like Southern. It was Southern gentleman. He actually was probably closer to South Carolina. The differences are negligible. You only really know if you're there. For a crowd anywhere in the world other than Kentucky, Tennessee, South Carolina, they would not have known the difference. I'll tell you, the difference is South Carolina accent kind of falls out of your mouth. It's like as if every word is thick and it just kind of like dribbles and drops out. A Kentucky accent is a little bit more like it gets caught in the back roof of your mouth and you're like spitting out chunks of words and bits of words and sometimes phrases. And I know that sounds weird, but I think that was how somebody described it to me once, but that is what I think about when I try to mock either of those accents. But just the same, it is really hard to talk about this movie. Obviously, I want to wrap up at the end, but I don't want to give away any spoilers without a warning. So from here, let's just say we're going to talk about a little spoilers. If you don't want to hear the spoilers for the movie, jump down to the next section down below because the spoilers are going to start right now. Probably the biggest surprise of all is learning exactly what happened to Harlan Thrombey an hour in to a 2-hour and 10-minute movie. I was shocked because one, I felt a little robbed that I didn't get an opportunity to try and figure it out myself. I felt like I was working it over in my mind and chewing it. I was essentially Benoit Blanc and trying to come to terms with what had happened. And then, they just kind of sit it on the table. I thought maybe that was going to ruin it for me. And I was just like, what are we doing here? Like, why would you do that to me? At least hold it a little while longer. But I think that was totally worth it. And boy, did it pay off at the end. Because knowing what really happened really set the tension. Because obviously, if you know what happens, you know who's guilty and who's innocent. And it really puts into perspective the way people are acting because a lot of the characters, a lot of the kids, Linda, Walt, Ransom, they're all acting guilty. Richard especially. Oh man, Richard, super guilty. But they're not. So where does that come from? Where does that motivation to act guilty, even if you're not guilty, come from? I wanted to fault Rian for giving it away, but then I think that actually made the movie. So it's weird because it's described as a murder mystery, and I want people to kind of think of it as a murder mystery. Go in thinking that, because even when you know what's happening, you don't know what's happening. Obviously, it's not. This is more about figuring out about the situation you don't know, and that is even given away at the top. It's so weird that like Benoit says at the very top, like there's something missing here and I can't figure out what it is, and that I think is everything. That is the mystery we're trying to solve. It's not the murder of Harlan, that's kind of given to us. We're trying to figure out what's missing. I want to say it was a bit of an advantage. We went out to In-N-Out after. There's an In-N-Out right around the corner from Burbank, 16 AMC, where we saw Knives Out in Prime. I wanted to say to them, like, it sucks because I was a little bit at a disadvantage. And once we figured out what had happened at hour one, I started putting it together and I was like, why would he do what he did? Well, you guys may or may not know, but I was an attorney back on the East Coast. And the first thing that came to my mind was, well, he cares about her, yes. He cares about her family, yes. But there's got to be some bigger benefit, I bet, that he is worried because, of course, he knows everything about murder, right? He knows everything about law because that's what he writes. He knows about the Slayer rule. And what he needs to make it so that she doesn't kill him. Because if she kills him, then the will defaults back to being distributed evenly amongst children and grandchildren. So he's got to do the very tough thing. And of course, I put that together probably like midway through as my guess. But then, even if you guess it, there was a lot of things that kind of like threw me off the scent. Like the whole thing with Ransom just was a huge red herring that I didn't see coming. And here's the thing I love about Knives Out, and the thing I love about these kind of movies when they're done well. On a second viewing, they gave you everything you needed to figure it out. And it's not a murder mystery, but I think The Sixth Sense is the same way. Even though it's not a murder mystery, on a second viewing, you are given everything you need to figure that movie out. And sometimes we just didn't. On the first viewing, you just don't see the things you're supposed to see. Even though in that movie, it is highlighted for you in bright red. And in this movie, I don't think it was highlighted that much. You feel like you're traveling along with Benoit and we should be figuring it out with him. But the reality is that, and we're also laughing at what we know that he doesn't know, obviously, because there are things that we've learned now that he's trying to figure out. But we also know that he's our best source for figuring out everything else we don't know. It's just like any magic trick you've ever seen. I want you looking over here so that you don't see the thing over here. And when you don't see the thing here, then I can slip something by you. So I do want to see it again, only because now that I know the whole deal, I feel like I was probably given everything I needed to figure it out. Most importantly, the phrasing that Great Nana says when Marta drops off the lattice. That, I think, is so key. And it was so weird to me the first time I heard it, but I didn't catch it. I was like, man, that's a weird way to say that, but it was very important. You know, the thing about the murder mystery kind of movies is that it's really important that it is done not taking itself too seriously, and I think Knives Out nailed that as well. That's getting out of the spoilers, and I think that we've probably discussed it long enough. So let's jump back in. We'll bring everybody back in, everybody who got out, and talk about the rest of the movie right now. So I started getting into it in the spoiler section, but I figure there's not a spoiler. Let's just bring it back to everyone else. These movies are done best. When I mean these movies, I mean murder mysteries. When there is a level of thriller, there's a level of mystery, and there's a level of comedy. You have to have all three. And I think maybe that's where Clue really nailed it. Every great murder mystery I've seen has involved really great actors who are great taking on their parts. It's also involved a story that had funny elements and characters that were funny, and actors the ability to pull off those funny characters. There were some elements where you felt the fear that the characters were feeling, even if maybe they weren't in any real danger, because obviously a lot of things can be flashbacks, they can be imaginations or ruminations of trying to figure this situation out. But most importantly, the mystery remains at the center of everything, and I think that is what Knives Out does so very well. Yeah, I heard some comments from my compatriots there about not really loving Chris Evans' character, but I think that everyone did such an amazing job. And I worry that the concern is Chris Evans is not playing something that he has played before. That's not true. He is not playing something he has played in a very long time. Keep in mind, he was in some of those very early 2000, like Not Another Teen Movie. Chris Evans was a bully in Not Another Teen Movie before he was Captain America. So I think that we've lost track of the fact that he's not always Captain America. And he wasn't Captain America in this, and that's okay. And he did a really good job with his character, and that's all we really asked for. Far and away, I think the star of this was Jamie Lee Curtis. Now, not on the script, not on the page, but she stole every single scene she was in. I really want to see more of her than I've seen recently. I don't know what she's been in. I don't think it's been a lot in the last few years, but please, give me more Jamie Lee Curtis. I'm down. I want to go see something else with you in it. She's got this full head of white hair, and she's taken on that I am a distinguished older woman, and I am down for it. I want to see more of it. And Ana de Armas, who apparently, according to, again, my compatriots, is an up-and-coming actress who's been in a few things that I've actually seen, but I didn't realize. I'm super excited to see where she goes. I just think the innocence of her character in this, and just, it's everything for the story. You want to be on her side. And, I say that we follow Benoit, and that's kind of how we're going through, but the reality is we're following Marta. Marta's just with him most of the time. She knows more, and we know what she knows at a certain point. So we're just kind of following along with him and her together, but mostly her, and her innocence really plays that role so well. And I think that when you need to identify with a character, she's going to be someone you go to. I don't know if she's going to be perfect for every part. I also don't know if the accent that she has in Knives Out is a natural accent or if she was putting that back on for the production, but I think that's going to limit some of her roles. It didn't limit my ability to enjoy the movie. I understood her perfectly well. Some of the compatriots, not so well, I don't think. I don't have enough time to go into every single person and how well they did, but when you have a cast like this, you're never going to miss. Michael Shannon, excellent in his character. Frank Oz makes an appearance as an attorney. So good. Just everyone, one after another, just dealing. Don Johnson, who I feel like I haven't seen in a while either. I don't think this was the part that he needed to stretch his legs, because he was very, very much a certain kind of character, and we needed him to be that. And that doesn't give him a lot of breadth to try and do much with it. But in this age, and I'm not going to say it's a spoiler, it's something you probably would expect. But, in every movie now there seems to be this right-wing conservative, vaguely Trump. But, every movie now is breaking down into the tropes that we've seen in real life. You have the young person who is clearly like a Bernie / an Elizabeth Warren supporter. We have the older, white, generally person who's going to be a Trumper or a conservative. I feel like he has a really key place in that kind of role, where he's got all of the appearance of a dude who would definitely vote for Donald Trump and probably vote for him a second time. Still a believer. And I think that as we move forward into the 2020s, he is going to be able to use that to his advantage, because I think there's going to be a lot of need for that role. It's a movie about murder. It's an investigational, a murder mystery. And more importantly, it's about a writer and a publisher. And I mean, you're firing on all cylinders for me. You are hitting everything that I am looking for in a movie. And maybe most importantly, it's a good time at the movies. I had a really long Saturday. Try to find the energy, push through, go out. It's going to be 10 o'clock showing, so make sure that we're up and get a little caffeine in us with the Coke. The movie does the rest. As long as you can get yourself up and ready, it's going to grab you and hold on and not let go and take you through. And that's exactly what this does. And we can't ask for much more for that from a movie. Knives Out is a definitely must-see. Go out and catch it while it's still in theaters. You'll be doing yourself a disservice to wait until this comes to streaming. This is an experience. You're going to want to see it in a room with other people reacting when you do, the surprises, the shocks. You want to be with other people. This is why we still want to go to the movies. Movies just like this. And most importantly, we need more of them. So we need to go out and support them, so that a lot of great directors who have great small kind of ideas, it's not small budget for sure, but small ideas, can get great cast together and make these kind of movies. Because otherwise, it's going to be Marvel. It's going to be all superheroes all the time. And I shouldn't say Marvel. It's going to be just superheroes, though. I mean, we're going to get Joker, and we're going to get Birds of Prey, and we're going to get Marvel movies, and that's going to be it. And if not, it's going to be these little small independent movies that are getting made for like $3 or $4 million. This is exactly what we should be doing. Let's get back to this. Maybe I'm a little selfish, because this is the kind of movie that I want to write. These are the movies that I'm writing, and I want those to get made because I love them. That's what got me interested in film. And I think that if everyone looks at themselves, they're going to find that that's what got them into movies as well. So go out and see Knives Out. Support it. Go see it once. Go see it twice. As much as you can. Because this movie, I think, is going to be a must-see. And you don't want to be the only person at your office or your school or your church or anywhere who hasn't seen Knives Out and cannot discuss it. So go see it this weekend. Well, there you have it. Yet another episode of the Everyman Movie Reviews in the books. At the top here, I want to thank my patrons. I would not be able to do this without you guys. I just went over to B&H and I got some brand new equipment, and that is all thanks to the support that I get from you. So thank you guys so very much. I can't say it enough. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And hey, do you want to be one of my patrons? Do you want to support all of the new projects that I have going on? It is super easy. Go on over to patreon.com. That's patreon.com/Robert N. Cheek. You can donate at any level, even as little as $1 a month. That gets you access, and you'll be able to catch up to everything that I am working on. They get early access to all the videos. They get access to the books. They get thank yous in the books, thank yous in the videos. Everything that I produce, I make sure and get it to them early, and I make sure to thank them during the process. So go on over to patreon.com, patreon.com/Robert N. Cheek, and become one of my supporters. Let me know that you have a vested interest in the things that I'm working on. And of course, you can find me for free on all your social networks at Robert N. Cheek. That's going to be on Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter, Snapchat, over on TikTok, where I got some new videos coming. My new favorite thing is to make memes with my nephew. You are not going to want to miss that. So at Robert N. Cheek on all your social networks. And of course, make sure you're checking out robertncheek.com. That's where you're always going to find the latest updates to what's going on, what projects I'm working on, and what I have cooking that maybe nobody else knows about. You can sign up for the email list there, and of course, directions to Patreon, directions to Oh the Anthem, directions to everything that I have going on. That'll all be located right there. Finally, you're probably watching this video on YouTube at youtube.com/Rob Cheek, but don't forget it's also available in podcast form over at anchor.fm/Everyman Movie Reviews. Now, at that link, you'll be able to find any of your sources of podcasts, where it's on Apple or Google or Pocket Cast or Dogcatcher, Stitcher, everywhere. Just go to anchor.fm/Everyman Movie Reviews and you'll be able to find your link so you can have it on your podcatcher of choice. And of course, the shows are very similar, but there are a few very key differences. So if you do want to check out the podcast, make sure you go to anchor.fm/Everyman Movie Reviews. You can throw another / in front, put message. It'll let you leave a voicemail for me, and with your permission, I'll actually use those on the show. show. You'll also hear some promos that they don't hear here on YouTube, but people on YouTube, you guys will get some stuff that they don't get on Anchor. So maybe check out both, huh? How about that? But however you consume your content, I've got it for you. Podcast, video, you'll be able to find it. So thank you guys once again for joining me. Look for the next episode coming very soon. New episodes every Thursday on the dot, no matter what. And another episode sometime in the week in between. Of course, I'm also working on the next episode of Rob Explains Everything. I'm thinking the Mandela Effect. So if you don't know what that is, make sure you go over to YouTube and subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you know when I update with my latest episode. A lot of stuff going on for me, a lot of stuff going on for you. So I appreciate you taking the time to check out this episode of the Everyman Movie Reviews. So until next time, thank you guys for joining me and have a great week, everybody.